Yeah, planning commission days.
Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 5:30, and I will call this regular meeting of the Burnsville City Council to order. The clerk will note that Mayor Couts is absent. We will begin our meeting with a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight's meeting is being conducted both in person and online. Most council members and staff are in the council chambers. Members of the public may attend in person, or the public can watch this meeting online at burnsvillemn.gov/meetings or on Comcast channels 16 or 859. The public can also participate through Zoom by joining us at zoom.us/join. For more information is available on our meetings webpage and in the council agenda packet. We'll move on now to announcements and presentations. Our schedule of upcoming meetings, we have regular council meetings scheduled for Tuesday, November 22nd and December 6th at 5:30. A work session Tuesday, December 13th at 5:30. We have two special work sessions, a legislative discussion with our lobbyist Tuesday, November 22nd at 6:30 p.m. And we have a holiday lights tour Tuesday, November 29th at 5:30 p.m. We also have a special council meeting to canvass the election results Monday, November 14th at 5:30 p.m., which will be in conference room D. All other meetings are held in the council chambers. Tonight we have two proclamations, America Recycles Day and Lung Cancer Awareness Month, and I will read both of those now. America Recycles Day. Whereas the city of Burnsville is committed to developing a sustainable community by enhancing economic opportunity and community well-being while protecting and restoring our natural environment. And whereas recycling and buying recycled products are a part of the strategy for a sustainable community because recycling product protects our environment as a wise use of our natural resources and supports the economic well-being of our nation. And whereas participating in America Recycles Day 2021, is that supposed to be 2022? 2022 is one way citizens can help raise awareness about the need to reduce waste by recycling and buying recycled products. Now, therefore, I, Vince Workman, acting mayor on behalf of the city council, do hereby proclaim Monday, November 14th, 2022 to be America Recycles Day, and call upon all residents of the city of Burnsville to join in the celebration of this important date by doing your part and recycling your old shoes. All types of shoes will be accepted in any condition Monday, November 14th through Monday, November 21st. The shoes can be placed in a drop box in the Burnsville Ice Center parking lot and will either be reused or recycled into new products. Proclaimed this 7th day of November 2022. Our second proclamation is Lung Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer death among men and women in the United States, and the 5-year survival rate is approximately 60%, yet only about 24% of lung cancers are diagnosed at this stage. And whereas screening for high-risk individuals can lead to its earlier detection and save lives, and funding for lung cancer research trails far behind funding for research of many other cancers. And whereas lung cancer incidence is decreasing twice as fast in men as it is in women, and by 2035 more women will die from lung cancer than men. And whereas disparities in lung cancer screening, diagnosis, treatment, and mortality are well characterized among African Americans and other racial minorities. And whereas lung cancer in individuals who never smoked is the 7th leading cause of cancer-related death. 60 to 70% of individuals diagnosed who never smoked are women, and the proportion of lung cancers diagnosed in people who never smoked is increasing in the U.S. And whereas organizations such as the American Lung Cancer Screening Initiative and Women's Lung Cancer Forum are committed to educating and working to increase screening rates. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Vince Workman, acting mayor, do hereby proclaim November 2022 as Lung Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Burnsville, Minnesota, and recognize the need for research in lung cancer affecting women as well as health disparities, and encourage all citizens to learn about lung cancer and early detection through screening. Proclaimed this 7th day of November 2022. We will now move on to citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for anyone that would like to address the council on an item that is not printed on the agenda and not coming before us at a future meeting. And I believe we have Mr. Mike Kearns available tonight with Boy Scout Troop 471. Who would like to speak? Mr. Kearns, if you could just give us your name and your address for the record, please.
Michael Kearns, 2305 East 125th Street here in Burnsville. I guess at first I would like to thank the city and the city council for supporting the community celebration and fire muster for all these years, because that's what keeps our troop running, the fundraising that we do there. And we also serve helping out with garbage detail and other things, but we really appreciate, if it weren't for the fire muster, we'd be knocking on doors trying to sell you more wreaths and popcorn, I guess. But anyway, we want to thank you for that. I want to mention the boys are here tonight working on citizenship in the community merit badge. And that merit badge requires that they listen to a controversial subject from the city council. I look over your agenda and there's hardly anything you're ever going to talk about that's controversial. So I thought I'd bring up some that you might want to discuss a little bit. But before that, we also have two Burnsville High School students here that are working on some school project, one of which is an Eagle Scout in our troop. But he won't admit that right now. He's working on a school project, so it's separate. Perhaps before I get to the controversial issue, the thing I wanted to talk about a little bit about that I noticed on one of your agendas in the past was bridge building, or making them more modern, more decorative, or something to that effect. I have a brother-in-law down in Iowa who was a civil engineer, and he was involved in building a bridge in Algona, Iowa, that is in the shape of a train, if you can imagine. And it's really beautiful. It's amazing. I called him today, and he said that the DOT of Iowa has like 25 different designs, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. There must be something out there. He thought that was perhaps there. But my question to you is, how is this going to go forward? Is the city going to have any input into how they're going to be done? And I understand it's like a 2-year project or something. And Dan, I think you're assigned to that, a task or
Yeah, so
something like that. I don't know.
we were asked to put together advisory task force of sorts, and Ryan Peterson, our city engineer, is kind of the lead on that, and I would ask Ryan to maybe elaborate on that a little bit more.
Certainly. Thank you very much. Basically, MnDOT is working to develop a project in the year 2025 to 2026, which would result in total replacement of the pavement on 35W between Cliff Road and basically the south project or city limits. And they'd also be replacing the Cliff Road Bridge, the Trunk Highway 13 bridges, and Burnsville Parkway Bridge. And to their credit, they do take input from the community on the aesthetics of these improvements. And so what they do is they create a visual quality advisory committee, of which we were discussed at a recent council meeting to try and get folks who could represent the city's interests and the history and that sort of thing. So we're working on finalizing our list of people who would be interested in helping to advise.
Okay. One of the more, when I saw this subject, I thought there's a bridge going into Minneapolis that has, it may be just a bicycle bridge, but it has these metal bicycles on it as a whole design. I thought, wow, that's rather creative. if we could be creative enough to have something that says, hey, we're Burnsville, this is what we're all about, especially for people coming from the south, coming on 42 over there, and from the, going south. So if we have something that says something about Burnsville, it'd be great. I'd be interested to see what you guys come up with. And last but not least, a little more controversial, our former scoutmaster, Dave Voska, who now lives in Bloomington.
Ooh.
The dump, we got a dump over here that Bloomington doesn't like. And I'm wondering what's gonna happen to that. Ages ago, when I was on the Parks Commission, we were gonna make a golf course there, and I said we can't do that anymore. I just wonder what the heck you're gonna do with that place. I know that there's a former dump that's seeping into our water system, and that's another whole problem. But what's gonna happen with that? And what, maybe somebody could be a devil's advocate and speak on the Bloomington side of things. I don't think Dave wants to get up and say anything, but what's our latest position?
You picked the most controversial topic you can think of, too. I'd speak for the most recent movement was that it was designated as a city park, which leaves it kind of intentionally vague. But the final, we won't really know until the dump closes. And I've heard things from, the mayor mentioned there's a city park in, I think, Virginia, they call it Mount Trashmore, kind of ironically. That is a city park. And then I've heard anything from Buck Hill North to, I had an idea of putting a golden statue of Mayor Couts on top, giving half of a peace sign to Bloomington, but that one hasn't been vetted through. Right now, it's just simply zoned as park, but I think the future council will probably narrow that down a little bit more. But I'd say we're probably a good 10 or 20 years out from really establishing what that end use is.
Something has to happen more recently with the old dump that's closer in.
The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency right now, according to their website, tentatively, if they decide to go with the dig and line option, which means they would dig up the garbage, put down a liner, and then put it back, would create, I think it was up to 780-foot garbage tower on the west side and up to 740 feet on the dump side. So we would have two giant mounds on 35 as you're entering Burnsville. This council collectively has agreed that we don't like that and have been pushing hard with our legislative partners to dig and haul, which would move that garbage across Kramer Quarry over to the waste management site. But there's still a lot of moving parts that the legislature ultimately has to decide. I mean, we can say what we would like, but the state is the one that would ultimately fund the project, and so they're gonna decide ultimately what that ends up looking like.
So the state is going to tell Bloomington to heck with, you ignore the idea that there's a mountain across the hill or across the river from you?
Now, instead of 2, they might have 3 to look at. Councilmember Schultz wanted to mention something.
Sure. One of the reasons why the council has been advocating strongly for the garbage to be pulled up, moved, and then that piece of property remediated is because that piece of property could then be redeveloped. And so you would have a beautiful piece of property on the river, that whole area that could be redeveloped, not just made a park, but redeveloped. And what that would mean is millions and millions and millions of dollars coming in through property tax to our schools. 191 needs it. To our city as well, because we've had the burden of having all of these, landfills and dumps in Burnsville like that, that was imposed on us. And we would be able to put that to good use. Also, no matter what it ends up costing, if we do where we pull the garbage up, put it somewhere else, develop that piece of property after it's remediated, that will pay back the costs very, very quickly for what it costs to do that. If they pull the garbage up, throw a liner down, slam her back down, call it good, none of us in our lifetimes, and probably none of us in our children's lifetimes, will see that money made back up. It's an absolute money loser as well. So every which way you can think about it, you lose on that option. Our community loses on that option. So that is why the council has really advocated strongly that they don't do that to us, that they don't do that to our community. We have had this burden for a long time. Let us crawl out from under it. You know, don't keep us burdened with it. But I also realize that for people advocating for the, you know, pull the garbage up, put the liner in, throw the garbage back down, they're like, but that's simple, and I don't have to think about it anymore, and I can just call it good. Simple is not always your best option, so, yeah,
Well, thank you.
you
I
bet.
think I finally gave him something to discuss.
There you go.
Contact your legislators.
Yes, call them,
All right.
call Bloomington.
And I would just put out a quick word of support for our local Boy Scouts. I was a Cub Scout in my younger days and received a flyer in the mail for my boys. And I ran into Mike at church this week and told him that's something that we're going to be doing with my kids. So thank you for your service to the community, and I'm looking forward to carrying the torch with my boys soon. So is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address the council on anything else? Seeing none, I will close citizens' comments. And we will move on to additions to the final agenda. This is for emergency items that need immediate council action or discussion. Does staff have any additions to the final agenda?
Nothing from staff, Mayor.
Does council have any additions to the final agenda?
No.
Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. However, an item may be removed from the consent agenda for a separate discussion and vote. Is there anyone in the public that would like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Does staff wish to remove anything from the consent agenda?
Nothing from staff, Mayor.
Members of council, would you like to remove anything from the consent agenda?
No.
Then I would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion by Councilmember Gustafson, second by Councilmember Schultz. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, and the motion carries. And there are no items on the regular agenda tonight, so that will bring us to adjournment.
Move to adjourn. Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Keely and a second by Councilmember Gustafson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and the motion carries. Thank you for being with us, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.